Hello, everyone. This is Andreas Pop Culture Guy. Here's the third and final Christopher Nolan movie review I have here. This is his latest and new movie, the 13th film, the Odyssey, the 2026 epic fantasy film. Of course, this is directed by Christopher Nolan himself. His ambitious, visually spectacle adaptation of the Homer's legendary epic poem, starring Matt Damon, Tom Holland, and Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, and Lupio Ligando, and John Barfel, wrapping up the other massive ensemble cast that Nolan has brought together. The film takes the audience on an epic journey filled with gods, monsters, battles, betrayal, and the universe, or the year, yeah, universe desire to return home. How poetic. At nearly 3 hours long, the Odyssey is exactly the kind of large-scale cinematic event that Christopher Nolan has become known for. The film follows Aeneas, played by Matt Damon. Hopefully, I say that right. The king of Athesa, who is desperately trying to return home after the Trojan War. However, his journey across the um, um, mid, across the Mediterranean becomes a dangerous adventure filled with mythical creatures, supernatural forces, and obstacles that test his courage, intelligence, and loyalty. What ultimately stands out about the Odyssey is its enormous scale. Christopher Nolan has created a world that feels ancient, mysterious, and incredible. In impressive. Uh, Hopefully I'm saying that right. Now, the film landscapes, battleships, and mythical creatures are presented with a sense of physical that makes the journey feel tangible. The use of the large format cinematography, particularly the IMAX cameras and 70 millimeter, is particularly impressive. This is the movie that definitely benefited noticeably from being experienced on the biggest screen possible. I agree on that part. The film's visual ambition is one of the greatest strengths, from the terrifying encounter of the Cyclops to the strange and dangerous worlds of Sirs. Nolan creates set pieces that feel genuine cinematic events. The movie constantly moves between intimate character moments and enormous spectacles, giving the audience a sense of both scale and danger. Matt Damon gives the strong performances as the lead for this film, rather than portraying him simply as an unstoppable action hero. At Odysseus, Damon presents Odysseus as a complicated man who is exhausted by war, desperate to return his family. His journey is not simply about surviving monsters or mythical obstacles; it's about finding his way back to the people he loves. The emotional core of the film comes from Odysseus' relationship with his wife Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, and his son Telemas, crazy these names is hard to pronounce, played by Tom Holland. Their separation gives the epic adventure a personal, emotional foundation, like some of other Nolan films like Interstellar, as I review. The movie is ultimately about the meaning of home. Odysseus spends years traveling through an unpredictable and dangerous world, but everything he does is moved by the hope of returning to his home. That gives the film the emotional center that connects the massive mythology to something deeply human. The supporting cast is filled with recognizable stars. I mean, self-performers to highlight are the standout. Robert Pattinson brings the intensity and theatrical energy to Aeneas, while the film's characters allow actors like Samantha Moore to embrace some of the movie's strangest and most memorable moments, like Sirs, and one of the film's most impressive sequences involves the Cyclops, which demonstrates Nolan's ability to turn ancient mythology into a thrilling monster movie entertainment. That sequence was terrifying, exciting, and occasionally even darkly funny. Of course, I wrote the Sirs. The Sirs sequence is another highlight. I mean, the movie this film becomes more surreal, unpredictable as Aziz and his men encounter the powerful enchantress. This moment shows Nolan stepping outside of the more grounded filmmaking style and more of some of his previous movies and embracing the full fantasy potential of Homer's story. Then we got the music score. Ludwig Göransson's plays a major role in the film's atmosphere. The music gives the journey a powerful sense of scale, while helping create the feeling that as is traveling through the world controlled by forces far greater than himself. But I gotta say, I think his score here is not as strong as Oppenheimer or Black Panther or even this year's uh the Mandalorian Grogu. So this was an okay score, but it was still good and it plays role for the film, I have to say. And narratively, I think Odyssey is another ambition that Nolan has created. I mean, Christopher Nolan has incorporated his own interest in non-linear storytelling into the Homer's classic tale, but not as fully as I was expecting. There still is the structure doesn't always follow the journey in a straightforward canonical order. This is true. This approach can be challenging at times, but it also gives the film an initial layer of history and encourage the audience to piece together the larger story. However, this is where the movie may divide the audience. I haven't read the Homer poem, so I'm completely fine what Nolan did here. But for some, I'll definitely address this. Yes, with so much story to tell, so many characters to introduce, some of the emotional relationships don't always receive so much development as they deserve. The film is frankly spectacular, but there are moments when the sheer scale of the production makes it difficult to make it difficult for the quieter character moments to have the same impact. This is especially noticeable in the film's family relationship. The story is ultimately about Aziz wanted to return home, but the enormous scope of the adventure sometimes overshadows the promise of snakes. This is where Interstellar exceeds well. Still, the film's strengths far outweigh its weaknesses, and I gotta say, the Odyssey is an incredible cinematic achievement. It takes one of the oldest stories in Western literature and transforms it into a modern blockbuster without losing its fundamental themes of ritual tale, honor, loyalty, temptation, courage, betrayal, sacrifice, and the search for home. What makes this movie particularly interesting is how it fits into Nolan's filmography, as I say before. Like Inception, it explores the world's governed by strange rules. Like Interstellar, I say before, it focuses on the power of human connection across enormous distance. Like Dunkirk, it examines survival and determination to make it home. And like Oppenheimer is a film about individuals whose choices have consequences far beyond themselves. But the Odyssey also feels different from Nolan's previous work because it allows him to fully embrace mythology and fantasy. Which is a rare thing for Nolan to do. The result is the film that is simultaneously ancient and modern, a story that has been told for thousands of years, but still feels relevant because of the central question remains universal. What what could you be willing to endure to return home to the people you love? Overall, the Odyssey is a magnificent cinematic spectacle with breathtaking visuals, impressive performances, thrilling action, and an extraordinary sense of scale. While its enormous vision occasionally comes at the expense of the emotional uh, intimacy, Christopher Nolan has delivered a film that feels designed to be experienced in the theater. This is not simply another blockbuster; it is a cinematic event. So my rating for this one, I'm definitely going to give it a 5 out of 5. Definitely a type 5 tier Christopher Nolan film. I think definitely prefer this over Oppenheimer. I'll say I'll definitely place Oppenheimer to 4, and then this will be 3. Uh, if I redo my ranking of the Christopher Nolan films now that we got more movies now, 13 movies. Yeah, so yep, my final, so 5 out of 5, highly recommended. Please see it on the big screen. Final verdict: The Odyssey is a breathtaking mono epic that brings one of the humanity's greatest stories to life on an enormous scale. And Christopher Nolan's vision may not always be emotionally intimate, but it comes to the spectacle, ambition, and poor cinematic craftsmanship. The Odyssey is an unforgettable journey worth taking. So thank you everyone for joining the Christopher Nolan pod. I hope you guys enjoyed the 3 movie reviews I have laid out here. So just for running down here, this is the Prestige for its 20th anniversary. You got Interstellar, and then you got the Odyssey here. So I hope you enjoyed these reviews. Gonna release it when I release it, But for no further ado, please check out my other content in the channel. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe it, hit that notification bell for more movie reviews and pop culture content. I'm Andreas Pop Culture Guy. I will see you in the next video or content. Ciao and have a nice week, guys. Bye.